Exhibit F, nobody gets paid on and for the record. Nobody gets paid and nobody pays for anything ever. The facts. What does this mean? What happened and when did this happen and what is the outcome? This is becoming more and more difficult to validate from reputable source, as much of that which it was unavailable has been removed from the public record. It is, however, a well-known fact that the victors rewrite the public record to suit their needs. It has also been noted that where there is something to hide, then hidden it will be. There is, however, still a great deal of information still available. One such resource is this, and it's a link to Gold Standard and its Future, published by E.P. Dutton and Co. Incorporated. By all accounts, this is the work of a young London University economist. A commentary on the book made by T.E. Gregory. Between 1919 and 1925, a cooperative and successful effort was made to replace the monetary systems of the world upon a firm foundation, and the international gold standard was thereby restored. In the last few years, a variety of circumstances have combined to imperil this work of restoration. The collapse of the gold standard in a number of raw material producing countries in the course of 1930 was followed by the suspension of the gold standard in a number of European countries. In 1931, the most important country to be driven off was Great Britain, which had reverted to gold after the war by the Gold Standard Act of April 1925. The Gold Standard Amendment Act, passed on September 25th, 1931, by suspending the gold standard in this country, led not only to suspension by the Scandinavian countries and by Finland, but also to suspension in Ireland and India. Other countries followed, including Japan and the USA. Followed by the usual disclaimer, note the views expressed on Mrs.org are not necessarily those of the Mises Institute or Mises. We find it very strange how these days there is always a disclaimer and nobody stands by their words. It is very strange that there is no record of this Gold Standard Amendment Act 1935 at the legislation.gov.uk website. I wonder why. Google brings up 36,600 results, but nothing on the legislation.gov.uk web. Very strange that. So was the Gold Standard Act abolished? And is there other evidence to support this? Well, for the older ones of us, there is the living memory. People used to get paid with gold sovereigns and silver coins. Imagine that. People used to get paid with real money. How absurd. Back in the day and for thousands of years, merchants used to use real gold and silver coins to trade. Back in the day, the merchants would make use of the goldsmith's safe to keep their money safe in exchange for a cashier note to the value of what was deposited in the goldsmith's safe. So what happened? Fractional lending happened where it was legalized by the government agreement that the banks could lend more money in the form of banknotes than the bank had sufficient gold or money to support. A banknote is not money. A banknote has never been money, but a note supported by the money on deposit in the bank, and that is the gold and silver. There is also license fraud legalized by agreement. Fraud is still fraud, legalized or not. Fraud by agreement is still fraud. The banks do not have enough money on deposit to support the notes in circulation. At some point in the 1800s, the banks claimed the gold, silver, as there would never be enough money to pay back all the debt that the banks had created by licensed agreement with the government.
I found out since writing that document what that was. When I wrote this document, I knew it was in the 1800s, but I didn't know what point in time. And that came about in the 1869 Insolvency Act. So before the 1869, there was no such thing as an Insolvency Act, and they haven't changed the Insolvency Act since 1869. So that gives you a date stamping time where the gold was removed as a foundation for the pound, as a foundation for the banknote. But I didn't know that when I wrote this document.
Okay, the facts are this. A banknote is not money and never has been, but only a note on a record or a record of something of value. As long as there was a Gold Standard Act, then the banknote would be something of perceived value, as it would have a relationship with something of value on deposit in the form of gold or silver. What if there was no gold or silver to give the banknote some value? What then? What then is the value of a banknote? If there is no Gold Standard Act and there is no money that the banknote represents, then what is the value of the banknote? If there is no money to support the banknote, then the banknote is nothing more than a piece of paper with marks on it of no value. It would be monopoly money. So how can we show this to be factual? Simple. Take some banknotes to the Bank of England, walk up to the cashier and demand the money that the Bank of England promises to pay on demand. How easy is that? Don't be too surprised when the cashier looks at you strange, and if you become insistent, then bank security will be summoned to remove you from this premises for disturbing the peace. How much proof do you need? What else do we have as evidence? Well, there is the Bills of Exchange Act of 1882. Why was there no Bills of Exchange Act before 1882? Did we not need any Bills of Exchange Act before 1882? Why is this date significant? Could this be because the government went into the 11th chapter of insolvency prior to 1882 due to the fractional lending fraud? How about you take out a loan and then ask the bank to provide the source of the funds dating back by 3 accounts and be compliant with the money laundering regulations 2007? Don't hold your breath waiting for a response. The bank cannot provide the historic records of the source of the funds. What really happens when you enter a retail outlet and purchase some goods with the Bank of England promissory notes? You then approach the cashier and make an offer of payment, which is a piece of paper from the Bank of England where there is a promise to pay, but no actual payment takes place. It is not possible to pay for anything without money. A banknote is not money. The cashier then gives you a receipt for the offer of payment. So in effect, pieces of paper have changed hands both with words and numbers on them. This complies with the Bills of Exchange Act 1882, as two pieces of paper to the same perceived value has changed hands. But when did you ever return to the retail outlet and pay for the goods with money? When did you ever pay for anything with real money? A banknote has never been money. There is no monetary system. The economics is based upon confidence and belief in a monetary system where there is no money. Can somebody please let me know where I can buy 20 pounds of confidence or 20 pounds of belief? Confidence and belief is of no material substance. Confidence and belief is a figment of the imagination. We continue to use the words money and pay without ever thinking of the actual meaning of the words. How can there be economics without money? Commerce is a scam. How is it possible for there to be debt when there is no money? Every contractual obligation you have ever entered into is void by default because there has never been full disclosure by the parties. You work for pay, but you never get paid. There is no money to pay you with, just banknotes that make promises that can never be kept. Even when there was real money in the form of gold and silver coins, the weight of the silver coins adding up to 1 pound never weighed 1 pound. Back in the day when there was 10 shilling coins, 2 of them never weighed 1 pound. It never happened. Stop living in dreamland and face the facts. What is 100 British pounds sterling? British sterling silver weighed in troy ounces. Well, 100 pounds is 45 kilos. That's more than 25 kilos if it is greater than the deemed safe carrying weight under the Health and Safety Act at Work Act 1974, where more than 25 kilos is a 2-man lift. It never happened, ever. When are people going to wake up and smell the coffee beans? Face the facts. To be in a capitalistic society is to exploit another for personal gain, but there has never been any gain because you never get paid. The bankers and the politicians are going to be really pissed when they find out they got conned as well. 100 million pounds is still nothing of value because there is no money. 100 times 0 equals 0. 0. These are the facts. It could be said that I'm making all this up as I go along. That may be true, but only maybe. This is a two-way street. The politicians and the bankers and the governments have been making it up as long as they go on for years and nobody ever noticed. Somebody made it all up. So the real question is this. It is also true that where there is no physical material evidence to the contrary, then the obvious stands as fact. Where the statement or document containing the details is obvious, then the documented fact that cannot be challenged, as there is no material evidence, physical evidence to the contrary of the obvious. Sherlock Holmes is a fictional character created by Scottish author and physician Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, a graduate of the University of Edinburgh Medical School. It is clear that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was a learned man who was very skilled in analytical and deductive reasonings. From these writings by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, there is the following. A Study in Scarlet from 1986, Part 2, Chapter 7, page 83. In solving a problem of this sort, the grand thing is to be able to reason backward. That is a very useful accomplishment and a very easy one, but people do not practice it much. In the everyday affairs of life, it is more useful to reason forward, and so the other becomes neglected. There are 50 who can reason synthetically for one who can reason analytically. The Sign of the Four from 1890 is the second novel featuring Sherlock Holmes, written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Where there is the lack of material evidence to support the claim, then the claim being made is not an act of fraud by the very fact that there is no material evidence to support the claim. The very lack of material physical evidence to support the claim is the evidence that the material evidence proves the claim is a fraud. Consider the following. There are some fundamentals to give consideration before an agreement or contract is valid and enforceable. Full disclosure by the parties. If there is no full disclosure by the parties, then the agreement is void from the outset. There would not be any material physical evidence to any missing disclosure, but the absence of this material physical evidence is the evidence of the fraud. Agreed consideration by both parties. There must be a consideration by both parties. There must be material evidence of this consideration. Where banks are concerned, then this would be the record as to the source of the funds lent to the borrower. If the bank has not provided this material evidence of the source of the funds, then the bank have not given any consideration and cannot suffer any loss. There should be a signed agreement by both parties. Without the signature from both parties, and then there is no material evidence to the agreement or contract. To be compliant with the Companies Act 2006, I'm not sure if that's one or I. One, under the law of England and Wales or Northern Ireland, a document is executed by a company, A, by a fixing of its common seal, or B, by signature in accordance with the following provisions. 2, a document is validly executed by a company if it is signed on behalf of the company, A, by 2 authorized signatories, or B, by a director of the company in the presence of a witness who attests the signature. The very absence of the company, which is the bank, seal, or signatures from the company, is a material evidence of the fact that their activities are fraudulent from the start. Account holder signs the bank's loan contract or mortgage or credit agreement. The bank officer does not, so there is no agreement or contract. The account holder signature transforms the loan contract into a financial instrument worth the value of the agreed amount. The bank fails to disclose to the account holder that the account holder created an asset. The financial instrument, an asset deposited with the bank by the account holder. The financial instrument remains the property of the account holder since the account holder created the financial instrument with the signature. Banks fail to disclose the bank's liability to the account holder for the value of the asset of the commercial instrument. The bank fails to give the account holder a receipt for the deposit of the account holder's asset or commercial instrument. New credit is created on the bank books credited against the account holder financial instrument. Banks fail to disclose to the account holder that the account holder's signature created new credit that is claimed by the bank as a loan to the borrower. Loan amount credited to an account for borrower's use as a credit. Bank deceives borrower by calling credit a loan when it is a deposited asset created by the account holder. Bank deceives public at large by calling this process mortgage lending, loan, and similar. Bank deceives borrower by charging interest and fees when there is no consideration provided to the account holder by the bank. Bank provides none of its own money or commercial instruments, so the bank has no consideration in the transaction, and so no true contract exists. Bank deceives account holder that the account holder's self-created credit is a loan from the bank. Thus, there is no full disclosure, so no true contract exists. Account holder is the true creditor in the transaction. Account holder created new credit as a commercial instrument. Bank provided no value or consideration. Bank deceives account holder that the account holder is a debtor, not a creditor. Bank hides its liability by off-balance sheet accounting and only shows its debtor ledger in order to deceive the borrower and the court. The bank is licensed by the government to commit actions that would otherwise be illegal. This banking fraud. The court is a sub-office of the same company. See Exhibit C, the material evidence of the fact. The court has an obligation to support actions licensed by the state. There is a clear conflict of interest here. Bank demands account holder payments without just cause, which is deception, theft, and fraud. Bank sells account holder financial instrument to a third party for profit. Sale of the financial instrument confirms it has intrinsic value as an asset, yet that value has not accredited to the account holder as the creator and depositor of the instrument. Bank hides truth from the account holder, not admitting theft nor sharing proceeds of the sale. Account holder's financial instrument with the account holder and the creator of the financial instrument. The account holder's financial instrument is converted into a security through a trust or similar arrangement in order to defeat restrictions on transactions of loan contracts. The security, including the loan contract, is sold to investors despite the fact that such securitization is illegal. Bank is not the holder in due course of the loan contract. Only the holder in due course can claim on the loan contract. Bank deceives the account holder that the bank is the holder in due course of the loan contract. Bank makes fraudulent charges to the account holder for loan payments, which the bank has no lawful right to, since it is not the holder in due course of the loan contract. Bank advanced none of own money to account holder, but only monetized account holder signature. Bank interest is usurious based on there being no money provided to the account holder by the bank, so that any interest charged at all would be usurious. Thus, bank loan transactions are unconscionable. Bank has no true need for a mortgage over the borrower's property, since the bank has no consideration, no risk, and no need for security. Bank exploits account holder by demanding a redundant and unjust mortgage. Bank deceives account holder that the mortgage is needed as security. Mortgage contract is a second financial instrument created by the account holder. Deposit of the mortgage contract is not credited to the account holder. Bank sells the account holder mortgage contract for profit without disclosure or share of proceeds to account holder. Sale of the mortgage contract confirms it has intrinsic value as an asset, yet that value is not credited to the account holder as creator and depositor of the mortgage contract. Bank deceives account holder that the bank is the holder in due course of the mortgage. Bank extorts unjust payments from the account holder under duress with threat of foreclosure. Bank steals account holder wealth by intimidating account holder to make unjust and fraudulent loan payments. Bank harasses account holder if account holder fails to make payments, threatening legal recourse. Bank enlists lawyers willing to deceive account holder and court and exploit account holder. Bank deceives court that the bank is holder in due course of a loan contract and mortgage. Bank's lawyers deceive and exploit court to defraud account holder. The government licensed the bank where a license is permission to partake in an activity which would otherwise be illegal. The court judiciary is a sub-office of the company which grants the license and has an obligation to find in favor of the holder of that license, as the judiciary is a sub-office of the company, state, which grants the license. See Exhibit C, the material evidence of the fact. The judiciary is a sub-office of the state company, and this is confirmed by the Right Honourable Lord Chief Justice Sir Jack Beatson, FBA. This is a fact on and for the record. The state company has no legal authority to grant the licence. See Exhibit B, Case Authority number WI 052557F as definitive material evidence of this fact that the governed have not given their consent or the legal authority for the state, the government, company to create legislation or grant licence. This is a fact on and for the record. Bank steals account holder mortgage property with legal impunity. Bank holds account holder liable for any outstanding balance of original loan plus costs. Bank profits from the loan contract and mortgage by sale of the loan contract, sale of the mortgage principal and interest. Account holder mortgage property in foreclosure. Bank retains the amount of increase to the money supply created by the account holder signature once the loan has been closed. Account holder is damaged by the bank's loan contract and mortgage by theft of his financial instrument asset, theft of his charges and living in fear of foreclosure and ultimately having his family home stolen by the bank. Thus, bank mortgage loan business is unconscionable. So what is the material evidence that is missing? First, there is the contract or agreement which bears no signature from the bank or company seal. The true accounting from the bank company that shows the source of the funds that the bank lent to the borrower. Full disclosure from the bank company to the fact that it is the account holder's signature that created the commercial instrument and the asset which is the true source of the funds. The consent of the governed, Exhibit B, recorded a legal authority on and for the record, Exhibit B. The facts are the facts because they are the facts. Facts have material substance. Material evidence of the facts is something of material substance. Where there is no material substance to the fact, then there is Bill and Ben making things up as they go along. These are the facts. This is the documented evidence of facts. It is the very lack of material evidence to the contrary to these documented facts, which is the very evidence itself. Where there can be no physical evidence presented as material evidence that the opposite is true, is by default the fact and fraud. We are all victims of this same criminal and intentional and unconscionable crime. This is inclusive but not limited to the lawyers, the barristers, the judges, the member of parliament, the banking staff, the police, the people of this land. Who is not a victim of this unconscionable crime? These are the facts and the documented facts on and for the record. These facts stand as facts until somebody presents material evidence which stand as fact to the contrary to these stated, documented, and for the record facts. Who is the fool? The fool or the fool that follows the fool, without will or vexation. Exhibit G. Oh, did you want to say anything about that before we go on, David?
Yeah, that is an extensive narrative which shows once again that, you know, your signature, it's your signature that creates the brand new money. Now, there's got to be a means to create brand new money, and it's your signature that does that. Everyone's signature that does that. When you make that application to the bank loan and they don't give full disclosure that they are not lending you money, but it's your signature on that application that creates that new money, there has got to be a means to create new money because the government steal 85% of the gross and it goes down the black hole. That would empty the pool of economic cash that people need to survive in this fake world of economics. So if that is reduced by 85%, you've got to have a means to make it back up again, and that is all the bank loans. And without that, the world economics would have crashed completely and totally back in 1869. And it's all because it's all fake, it's fiduciary, it's a fiat currency based upon nothing. It's all a hypothetical concept in the abstract. And it's got to be a very long-winded, you know, explanation of that to get it across to people. And we've all been duped.
Yeah.
It means I have achieved in what I have written there in my objective. You see, I'm not only the engineer that's to fabricate a weld and the electronics engineer, I'm the Microsoft certified systems engineer as well. I've been in the bank. I build their servers. I build their computers from the ground up, from blank hard drives. I know what is on them computers. I know what is on them hard drives. And I take personal responsibility as the engineer to know for the integrity of that work, because if I don't know what I'm doing, your bank's screwed. Seriously. So, but I can't bring that across as because I cannot give you the physical material evidence of what I've seen and what I know. I don't have that evidence, but I've been in that back office. I've seen that paperwork come out the front office where you've signed your application for the bank loan and they've scanned it and then they've shredded it. So your document no longer